Okay, so like, have you ever noticed how some of those big tech names kind of dropped off the radar?
Yeah, like who?
Well, think about it, like Japan used to be synonymous with cool tech, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. Walkmans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Walkman's, PlayStations, those sleek Vio laptops. I mean, they were everywhere.
Yeah, they were the ones to beat for sure.
But now, not so much.
It's true. You kind of walk into a tech store today and it's like stepping back in time.
Right. So today we're going deep on that. Like, what happened to Japan's tech dominance? Can they make a comeback? What's the deal?
Well, it's a fascinating story because on the surface it looks like they just vanished, but really it's about those subtle shifts that happen in technology, like behind the scenes stuff that most people don't even notice.
And we're all about uncovering those hidden trends.
Yeah. Exactly. And this one starts with a boom. After World War II, Japan's tech industry basically rose from the ashes, became an economic powerhouse.
Yeah, the video mentioned that economic miracle thing,
Yes.
right? Like rebuilding an entire country's tech sector from scratch.
Hmm.
That's wild.
It is wild. And a big part of that was the strategy they called import substitution.
Import substitution.
Basically, they decided, hey, we're going to build it all ourselves. Instead of relying on other countries for technology, they were like, nope, we're going to be self-sufficient.
Wow, so they were like the ultimate DIY tech scene.
Pretty much. And
Yeah.
it worked for a while. They were cranking out all these incredible gadgets, but then the tech landscape started to change.
Yeah, and that's where things get interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because they were killing it with hardware Walkmans, PlayStations, those sleek Vio laptops, but then
Right.
something shifted.
Exactly. Think about the rise of Apple. It wasn't just about having a cool phone or a cool music player. It was about creating this whole ecosystem.
Oh, so you're talking about how your iPhone talks to your iPad, to your Apple TV, all through iTunes.
Exactly. It's all seamlessly connected. And that's something a lot of Japanese companies miss. They were so focused on perfecting the hardware, the individual gadgets, that they didn't quite grasp the power of software and integrated ecosystems.
So they were busy making the best TVs, but they didn't quite get what you could do with the software around that TV.
Exactly. And that created an opening for other companies who were thinking more holistically about the user experience.
Yeah, the video mentioned Samsung and how they really capitalized on that moment. Like they
Yeah.
focused on features design and competitive pricing.
And that's a key point, right? Understanding what consumers want sometimes, even before they know it themselves. It's not just about building a better gadget, it's about anticipating the needs and desires of the people using it.
So while Japan was busy perfecting the Walkman, the world was moving towards the iPod and the whole iTunes ecosystem.
And that shift from hardware to software had a huge impact on the tech landscape.
Totally. But it wasn't just about the tech itself, right? You were saying there was a cultural side to this too.
Yeah, absolutely. Japanese corporate culture is fascinating.
So last time we were talking about this whole cultural side to Japan's tech trajectory.
Right, like how their corporate culture played a role.
Exactly. You're about to say something about seniority.
Oh, yeah. Japanese companies, they really value experience, tradition, you know? Like the longer you've been there, the more your voice carries weight.
Which makes sense in a lot of ways, but I guess it could also backfire.
Exactly. Like imagine you're a young, hotshot engineer, fresh out of school, you got all these cutting-edge software ideas.
But you walk into these giant tech companies with their decades of tradition
You're the new kid on the block, right? You got to earn your stripes.
and meanwhile, the world of tech is moving at warp speed.
Totally. It's like the opposite of that Silicon Valley move fast and break things mentality.
Which can be its own problem, but still.
Oh, for sure.
Wow.
But in this case, it meant that Japan was kind of stuck in this hardware-first mindset while the rest of the world was racing towards software and ecosystems.
And to make matters worse, the video mentioned Japan was going through that lost decade economically.
Oh, yeah. The 1990s hit them hard.
Rising yen competition from China, it was like a perfect storm.
It really was. And that economic uncertainty, it definitely didn't help the tech industry either.
Right, because when times are tough, people are less likely to buy a new gadget, even if it is the coolest Sony Walkman ever.
Exactly. People start tightening their belts. They're not going to shell out for the latest and greatest if they're worried about their jobs or their savings.
So it's like this chain reaction, right? You have this major tech shift happening, then you've got internal cultural factors, and then bam, external economic pressures pile on.
It's like a recipe for getting left behind, and that's kind of what happened to a lot of Japanese tech companies.
So while they were busy perfecting the hardware, the world moved on to software and integrated experiences, and suddenly they're playing catch-up.
And that's a tough game to win, especially in the tech world.
For sure. But then again, we've seen companies adapt, Samsung being a great example.
Right. They really pivoted to meet the demands of the market, like with their TVs.
They went all in on flat screens, sleek designs, competitive pricing, and it worked.
Exactly. They saw where the puck was going and they skated to it.
Makes you wonder if things could have been different for some of those Japanese companies if they'd been a little more agile.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it makes you think about those what-if moments in history,
No,
right?
totally. But hey, that's why we're here, right? To unpack these complex narratives.
Absolutely. And speaking of complex narratives, the video touched on something called the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Oh, yeah, with AI and robotics and all that futuristic stuff.
Exactly. And it made me wonder, could this be Japan's chance to get back in the driver's seat?
So we're talking AI robots, automation, like the future is now kind of stuff.
Yeah. Right. And it's funny because it might actually play to Japan's strengths.
Oh, really? How so? I thought their whole thing was hardware, and we're moving beyond that.
Well, yeah, but think about it. Their expertise in manufacturing, precision engineering, all that stuff, it translates really well to fields like
Oh,
robotics.
I see what you mean. Like, they're not just building gadgets anymore. They're building the robots that'll build the gadgets.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper than that. Remember how we talked about Japan's aging population?
Yeah, it's a big challenge, right?
Huge, but it's also pushing them to be super innovative in fields like elder care, tech assistive devices, things like that.
That's right. The video mentioned that. It's like their demographic challenges are actually driving some cutting-edge tech.
Exactly. They're turning a problem into an opportunity. They're developing robotic caregivers, AI-powered health monitoring, all sorts of stuff that could help people around the world, not just in Japan.
So they're kind of ahead of the curve in a way, like they have to be.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, what if that kind of problem solving became the main focus of innovation globally?
That's a really interesting thought. Like, what if instead of just chasing the next cool gadget, we were focused on using tech to solve real human problems?
Right. Imagine the possibilities.
It's a powerful idea. And it really makes you rethink what it means to be successful in the tech world. It's not just about being first or having the coolest gadgets.
It's about making a real difference.
Exactly. So maybe Japan's tech story, it's not over yet.
Maybe it's just the beginning of a new chapter.
Who knows? But one thing's for sure, this whole journey has been really thought-provoking. Big thanks to you for breaking it all down with us.
Anytime. It was a fascinating deep dive.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into the trends shaping our world. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.